People who found dead bodies somewhere. What happened? Turned up for our weekly live action role playing session. In the car park is a car. There are normally none at that time on a Sunday morning other than ours. One of the guys, a med student, wanders over and then calls Mark, a pharmacist, over. They consult and then come tell us the guy has killed himself, hose pipe into the car. He'd left a suicide note. His reason was that his girlfriend had dumped him. Our conclusion was he was a selfish loser. Police and a mortician turned up and took him away. Felt sorry for his family. Then we went off and hit each other with rubber swords for the rest of the day. That wasn't my first dead body though. Working nights and was chatting to a DNR cancer patient. Went to get her a drink, and when I came back she was dead. Then we went off and hit each other with rubber swords for the rest of the day. Ha. Good solution. I didn't find it, but I did see it. I was 14 or 15ish, and I was at my church for Bible study at 8 p.m. or so. I didn't hear it happen, but I heard the police and ambulances approaching. My mom wouldn't let me get anywhere near, but I still saw the body get lifted onto the ambulance. Apparently a woman was crossing the road while it was dark. She was then hit by a car going too fast to stop in time. The woman was hit and killed. The driver freaked out and split. I don't think they ever caught the driver. After that it made me really sad to go to church, because we'd have to drive past the crime scene. The outline of the woman who died was there for quite a while. Outline? Like a chalk outline? Did this happen in the 20s? I think it was tape, but yeah, there was an outline. In early 2000s. When I still did pest control, we worked a lot of retirement homes, low-income housing, etc. Found one body in a senior living center, the kind where they have their own small homes in a gated community. Walked in with the maintenance guy. He went to go check something in the utility closet. I went around the corner and found a lady who had by all appearances passed away in her recliner. Hung out outside until a cop and some medical guys showed up. Told them I saw her, didn't touch anything, and went back to our office. Nothing else ever happened with it. Another time, same kinda situation with me and a maintenance guy in a low-income place. He went in first and found the body. I never saw it, but still had to wait around for the police to take a statement, since she had apparently been stabbed. Turns out it was drug related, from what I was told later. Dude, it was so weird. I was on a trip by car with my father and brother and we stopped for some breakfast. After that we decided to take a walk and suddenly I noticed something from afar. It was like so weird, because I told my dad, what's that? And then we start to get closer and closer, and we see a person dressed with a suit just laying there, really white and steady. I asked, is he dead? And my father confirmed that he was the first time I saw a dead body. I still remember it today, boy. My grandpa's funeral was really weird, I tell you. It's part of my job as a nurse. The one that really sticks with me happened last month. A coworker and I were cleaning up and repositioning a patient on comfort measures. I was holding him on his side while my coworker cleaned his back since he was really sweaty. He ending up breathing his last breath on my shoulder as we cleaned him. I've checked patients for signs of life and done post-mortem cleanups, but never been in the room as one passed. On the bright side, he had no family left, so at least he had someone with him. Neighbor who killed himself, he'd not been seen for a couple of days. I looked into his garage and saw the hose leading from the exhaust pipe into the car. Someone found him and called the EMTs. Imagine that, but just going to sleep at night knowing that someone took their life right next to where you live. For some strange reason, even when I was a kid I knew death happens, and you have no idea when or where. That there was a dead body near where I lived didn't trouble me. I was sorry for his family, I was sorry for him. About 12 years ago I went with my mom and aunt to my grandpa's house, because he wasn't answering his phone. Once we got inside his house, the smell hit. When I turned the corner and looked, I saw him in his bedroom, with only the light coming from his TV. He was on the floor in a praying position, but I looks like he may have fell over from sitting on the bed. His shirt was up on his back, and his skin had splotches of blue-purple. Pretty morbid, but the smell sticks out in my memory the most. I woke up, Dad didn't. I realized I'd slept through my alarm, but the house was oddly still. I got up, went to the bathroom, saw him on the floor out the corner of my eye, but thought I'd imagined something. Went over a minute later, he was cold and discolored. I called 911, even though it was obviously too late. Worst day of my life. I'm so sorry. That story really hit me. Hope you are alright. Once had to open up a house as the father haven't seen his son who had a history or depression for around 3 months. He had a history of going incognito, so his father didn't push it and hoped he would make contact in his own time. I went with the police and soon as I got to the door you could smell the terrible stench of dead. Turned out the poor guy had committed suicide and been locked in the house for almost 3 months over summer. A smell and image that I will have for life. Not the usual story a homeless guy killed himself by going onto the train tracks when a train was speeding through. I pulled up to an train exiting and saw something that resembled ground meat on the pavement. Right then cops and firefighters were pulling up and throwing tarps over the remains. I went to a corner mart and warned everyone as they had stopped the train midway through the city and traffic was backed up. It was sad and unnerving. My father, my brother and I found a dead guy washed up on the beach when I was about 8. He had evidently drowned after sinking a very small boat while fishing. Lesson: don't take small boats out into the Pacific for any reason. Don't take small boats out into the Pacific for any reason. Laughs in Hawaiian. That isn't a fishing trip, and no one accidentally shot themselves with a gun they were cleaning. My neighbor was old and had emphysema and other cardiopulmonary issues from a lifetime of smoking. I hadn't seen him in a while and his room had returned from a 3-day trip and said she couldn't get him to respond to her and didn't want to look, so she asked me to see if he was okay. He passed away. It looked like he stood up without his oxygen and got dizzy, blacked out, and then never got his breath back. I was in a shelter with my brother for battered women and the like with my mom. Mom was in therapy or someplace and my brother and I went to get some cookies. We saw a woman presumably sleeping, and so we took no note of it. Later on I got curious, so while I was eating my cookies, turns out she overdosed and died later that night. Yes, I told someone before she died. Was on a beer run with underage friends when I was 18. A guy had been stabbed and left on a bike rack outside of my old junior high. Given that I was the only one there with a valid ID and cops were swarming all over, we just kind of noped out of there. Kind of wish I had gotten there sooner. Maybe we could have gotten an ambulance to him, but by that point the guy was already gone. Not me, but my parents went canoeing on the Baker River in Plymouth, New Hampshire, and were about an hour and 3 drinks into the ride when they noticed something floating near the shore. When they approached they realized what it was. A dead professor from the state university that had been floating there a few days. Took them a while to get over that one. When I was a camp counselor, some kids found a finger while raking the beach. Someone told us, and we talked them into thinking it was a dead fish before calling the cops. Turns out they found a body a couple miles down the lake. Cops came, collected the finger, and left. Insert giving cops the finger joke here. I worked at a casino throughout university and a few times while I was there some old people died while playing slot machines. I saw one lady sleeping and told one of the supervisors and she went to wake her up. She did not wake up. It really wasn't out of place for this to happen, as twisted as that sounds. Not found by me, but I saw. At age 6, I woke up in my living room to my older brother saying we needed to go upstairs. I heard heavy footsteps and looked to my left and saw police officers. Looked to my right and saw my mother draped over the couch dead from an overdose. When I was younger I heard a crash outside my house and went outside to see what it was. Across the street there was a car smashed against a tree. It was absolutely totaled. I went over to check on whoever was inside. The driver was alive somehow, but the passenger was lifeless. Was on an port call in Rio de Janeiro. We were having a couple of beers. This body rolled up on the beach. We got the lifeguard. They called the cops. The family came and identified the poor guy. It was the realest thing I have ever seen. First, walking beside a river in Amsterdam. Noticed a body floating. Others did too. Someone called police. Second, guy jumped from a building in Toronto. Landed beside me. I called police. Working in a hospital, I see dead bodies. People die several times per week. I've also been the one to find people dead, palliative hospice patients, when I walked into the room for evaluations treatments. The only dead body I found was a baby squirrel. The baby must have been from the squirrels that get into our attic. It must have fell. It hadn't even grown fur and kind of looked like a baby dinosaur. When someone was hanged from a crane, dunno the reason, prob bad, but it was official and there were police and a crowd watching. My friend's dad is an EMT, and he found my graphics teacher dead last night, the day before graduation and finals. Subway station. Employee said someone had already been called, so we just kept walking. I took out my camera and the Japan suicide forest and my YouTube Red show didn't get cancelled. Woke up and went to check on my mom. She went in her sleep from an overdose presumably. Posted it to YouTube. I didn't monetize the video though, so it's all good. Waking up, looking into the mirror, went to bed again. Excellent question, you high velocity girl. Come. A man who was a victim to the old stabby stab. Found my mother on the floor of her bedroom. Lick slips, I don't wanna talk about it. Lick slips, I don't wanna talk about it. This should be a serious post.